Welcome back to our conference on Barack Obama and the Lessons of Antiquity. Thank you for joining us and continuing to be with us this morning for this very exciting and dynamic panel with the speakers. Bruce Thornton, thank you for an excellent morning keynote address. Well, we have a wonderful panel coming up. It's called Lessons of Ancient Greece and Rome. It'll be about an hour and 15 minutes. We have 4 very distinguished scholars, and to head that panel, I've asked a colleague of mine at Grand Valley State University to help run that panel. His name is Charles Pazdernik, and he is the head of the Classics Department here at Grand Valley State University. He's also, in addition to being the chair of that very distinguished program, he is an associate professor. He comes with a great pedigree, a bachelor's degree from Cornell, master's from the University of Oxford, and a master's and Ph.D. from Princeton in the classics. And he's been a Pew Teaching Excellence Fellow here at Grand Valley State University. And he's been a junior fellow at Harvard University's Center for Hellenic Studies. He has a number of interesting publications as well. But without further ado, I'd like to invite Charles Pazdernik forward. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Gleaves, and thank you. Let me say thanks on behalf of the Department of Classics at Grand Valley State to you, Gleaves, and to the Hauenstein Center for the opportunity to participate in this conference. We're very happy to do so. And it's my pleasure to begin the panel today by introducing Dr. Robert Garland. He is Roy D. and Margaret B. Worcester Professor of Classics at Colgate University. He's Director of the Division of Humanities and Chair of the Department of Classics. His paper today is entitled Empire Building and America's Global Leadership in the Greek World. Professor Garland.
Thank you. I'd like to also reiterate thanks to the Hauenstein Center and to the Department of Classics here, to Whitney especially. When I got the invitation to this conference, I thought of a joke about what heaven is all about. You play a perfect round of golf in the morning, in my case, a perfect game of squash. You watch the Yankees beat the Red Sox, in my case, Manchester United beat Liverpool. And then you have dinner with all the greatest minds who have ever lived. And at a certain moment in the conversation, God, at the top of the table, says, "Shut up, Socrates. I want to hear what Garland has to say." I'll admit it, some of my colleagues think there's something a trifle presumptuous about a bunch of classicists offering advice to the Obama administration. The Greeks themselves, of course, wouldn't have thought so. Thucydides, had he been invited here today, would no doubt somewhat testily, as was his wont, have restated his cardinal belief that history is written for those who seek an understanding of the future, since, I quote, "Human nature being what it is, the future will resemble if it does not repeat the past." The biographer Plutarch, too, though he did not share this view, would have argued more graciously, as was his wont, that we live by example, and that the purpose of biography, a subdivision of history, is to provide methods of moral excellence and its opposite. Though being a sophisticated intellect, Plutarch would have gone on to point out that human personality is invariably a combination of both. Not just the Greek historians, but also the Greek poets would have been on the same page. From Homer onwards, poetry was, of course, in the service of education. The dramatists, all poets, of course, were known as didaskaloi, as teachers, and their lessons, it goes without saying, were and are eternal. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging of the future but by the past. So stated the Enlightenment historian Edward Gibbon. Since the 19th century, however, we have been much less trusting than either Thucydides or Plutarch or Gibbon about our relationship with the past, which makes this conference, its political import apart, a highly unusual cultural event. Contrast Gibbon with George Bernard Shaw. We learn from history that we learn nothing from history. Or with Henry Ford, history is bunk. Or with Kurt Vonnegut, history is merely a list of surprises. It can only prepare us to be surprised again. America, however, is ever the exception. I would bet top dollar that no such conference is taking place in any other Western democracy. The Lessons of Antiquity for the Brown administration, for the Silvio Berlusconi administration, no one in Europe would give classicists the time of day when it comes to looking for advice on any subject under the sun. And not just classicists, I might add, academics in general get short shrift. I can't imagine Prime Minister Brown nominating a Nobel Prize-winning physicist to be Energy Secretary, as President Obama has just done. So it's both humbling, inspiring, and faintly alarming to be standing here today. Humbling to be honoring the vision, the imagination, and the unfailing optimism of Ralph Hauenstein. I want to begin by acknowledging that we Americans, and I should state that my left leg is British, but my right leg is American, as I have dual citizenship, that we Americans have been there before. I mean, back to antiquity, for illumination. The Bush administration was only too eager to draw lessons from Greek history. I don't intend to say much about this because this will be, I think, the topic of Jeremy McInerney's presentation. But it's highly pertinent to my subject, empire building and global leadership. It's no secret that Bush strategists, Paul Wolfowitz in particular, were deeply influenced by Leo Strauss, a prominent classicist who taught political philosophy at the University of Chicago. Strauss wrote, "To make the world safe for Western democracies, one must make the whole globe democratic, each country in itself as well as the society of nations." Another prominent Straussian is William Crystal, who said on Fox News, "We need to err on the side of being strong. And if people want to say we're an imperialist power, that's fine." That reminds me of the definition of Machtpolitik that Thucydides puts into the mouth of Pericles. The empire that you hold is a tyranny. It may have been wrong to acquire it, but it would certainly be folly to let it go. I mention the neoconservatives because I believe they constitute a warning. Their admiration for what they saw as lessons from antiquity in the area of empire building did not serve this country as well as it might. So we should be on guard when intellectuals enter the political arena, which is to say you, the audience, should be on guard. It was the conservative historian, Paul Johnson, who wrote, "One of the principal lessons of our tragic century," he meant the 20th, "is beware of intellectuals. Not merely should they be kept away from the levers of power, they should also be objects of particular suspicion when they seek to offer advice." I'm not saying we shouldn't be here. I just want to sound a note of intellectual humility. Those who look to history for lessons almost invariably rely on analogy. The most egregious modern instance is the Munich analogy, which was frequently cited to demonstrate why it was both necessary and justifiable to make a preemptive strike against Iraq. But the problem with analogies is that they only ever work if one adds the magical Latin words mutatis mutandis, when the things that have to be changed are changed. No two set of historical circumstances are exactly parallel, and it is often the case that the mutanda, the things that have to be changed, are so distinctive that they invalidate the analogy. I have to concede, however, that it is virtually impossible to talk about lessons without drawing upon analogy. Dr. Thornton's keynote address on appeasement is a case in point, but I too, incidentally, will be using Philip as an analogy in a moment. Whether we happen to be historians or politicians, we are under a severe moral obligation to refrain from inventing facile and self-serving analogies to substantiate a deeply entrenched viewpoint. Antiquity particularly lends itself to facile and self-serving analogies because it is so imperfectly understood.